So today is Thursday, the 5th of February, 2025. Now, there are some events we're expecting this afternoon. Earlier on, okay, it's almost 1 p.m. There'll be a volatility to be expected from the United Kingdom. We are going to have the Bank of England monetary policy report and monetary policy summary, MPC, official bank rate was everything it has to do with interest rates, official bank rates. If the actual comes out better than forecast, we're going to expect to see some volatility on the British pound. Yeah, good afternoon, Billions Unlimited. So there's going to be volatility on the pound, and I'll show you the pound pair I'm looking at, for this news event. So we're expecting volatility in the next 12 minutes from the United Kingdom, through the British pound. By 1:30, the Bank of England, Governor Bailey will also give a speech, and by 2:15 p.m., we have main refinancing rate and monetary policy statement from the Eurozone. So we expect volatility from the Euro pairs too. And 2:30 p.m. today, there's going to be unemployment claims from the United States. I will likewise show you the dollar pair I'm looking at. Now, this afternoon is loaded with a lot of fundamentals. So even though I'm going to be showing you technical setup, it's for the specific fundamental event because today is just purely fundamental activity all through. By 2:45 p.m., there'll be ECB press conference, which will impact upon the Europeans. 4 p.m., there'll be job openings from the United States. Along with unemployment claims, we expect some volatility on the dollar. Then 6:25 p.m., there'll be Bank of Canada Governor Macklem, who will give a speech. And there's NZD Bank holiday all day. And later tonight by 11:30, the Reserve Bank of Australia Governor Bullock will give a speech. So we have the pound to look at, the euro, and the dollar. These are the main pairs we're looking at today: the British pound, the euro, and the United States dollar. All right. So let's go to the chart and look out for possible setup on each of these currencies that we just mentioned. And I'll start with the British pound. Currently, I'm looking at the GBP NZD. I've had my eyes on this instrument right from the beginning of the week. In fact, I would say right from the end of last week trading activity, I've been looking at the analysis on this particular instrument. Let me start all over again. It's a swing setup, but then it can work for even the current mid event. Now, on the weekly, the daily time frame rather, we have price closing last week around this resistance term support zone. Valid resistance here and valid support. So technically, we're looking out for a move to the downside. Sorry, a move to the upside, pardon me. And subsequently, also, we have price making a series of higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Again, we're looking for a move to the upside. So we have the resistance on support and the trend line both pointing us to a possible breakout to the upside on this GBP NZD on the daily time frame. Now, if you flip down to the 4-hour, we're seeing the formation of what looks a lot like an inverse head and shoulder pattern, which might trigger price again to the upside. So both the daily time frame and the 4-hour is giving us, both bullish outlook. We can as well add our trend lines on both sides to also give us a falling wedge pattern, which is still a bullish, breakout pattern. Now, when the news gets released from the United Kingdom in the next 12 minutes, now we can see the countdown timer on the Forex Factory is showing us we have 7 minutes to go to the release of the data. If the actual comes out, our focus is going to be on the rate vote and the official bank rate. The others are speeches. If the data comes out actual greater than forecast, that will lead to a bullish movement, on the British pound for these two events. If it's less than forecast, we will see a bearish movement. But from the setup I have, which I'm looking at closely, I'm expecting the actual to be greater than forecast, and as such, we should be looking at buying the British pound, especially the GBP NZD. All right, flip back to the chart. Like I said, I'm seeing the formation of an inverse head and shoulder. Now, with a resistance or support, we're looking bullish. A head and inverse head and shoulder, we're looking bullish. Falling wedge, we're also looking bullish. So we have an overall bullish breakout. Now, there are two ways to trade this news. If the news comes out as actual greater than forecast, you can as well place a buy on the GBP NZD. Now, peradventure you miss it or you are not too fast enough to place a trade, there's nothing to worry about. If the news comes out with actual greater than forecast, we have the neckline of the inverse head and shoulder around this area. Technically, if the price breaks this, maybe in the next 4 hours or after, you can still place a buy. So it's not compulsory you should do it when the news. If you want to, fine. But peradventure you don't want to, you want to take it manually, then wait for the price to cross above that neckline region, and we still expect price to move higher than that. And for manual trading now, if it's news trading, at least price is expected to hit this resistance, and that's between some 50 to some 80 pips, if you're doing news trading. But with manual trading, price is expected to break that neckline region and still continue going higher. And if it's manual trading, price can make as much as 123 pips of Fibonacci 38.2, as much as 200 pips of Fibonacci 50, and as much as about 300 pips of Fibonacci 1.8. So the ball is in your court how you want to trade this, either by the news or you want to wait for a manual breakout, to trade it. But overall, I remain bullish on the GBP NZD. Now, what happens if the news comes out as actual less than forecast? If it comes out actual less than forecast, personally, I'll just stay out because that goes against my analysis. My analysis is a bullish GBP NZD. And this is my key analysis for today and even this week. I think I mentioned that in one of my analysis at the beginning of the week. Two major pairs I'm looking at for the week. To go bullish, GBP NZD, and I think Euro NZD. Both of them I expect a massive bullish breakout. So I'm bullish on the GBP NZD. And for the news from the Eurozone, I'm bullish on the Euro NZD, likewise. Now for the Euro NZD, on the daily time frame again, we can see price is trending on, making a series of higher lows. This is not touching, but very close. So let's add it to it, a higher low again. And price eventually also hits a minor, very, very minor support here, which might look insignificant in a way. But then, even if we decide to ignore that, I'm coming just a second. If we choose to ignore that minor support, I will not ignore the reversal candlestick pattern that happened between Tuesday and yesterday and this. We have full green candle, full red candle side by side. It's not exactly a bullish engulfing, but we have what looks a lot like a reversal candlestick pattern, which could trigger price to the upside. So with the upward trend line and the minor support and this candlestick pattern, I actually expect a bullish movement on the Euro NZD. So let's flip down to the 4-hour time frame. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, we're seeing a lot of similarity between the GBP NZD and the Euro NZD, because the Euro NZD is also forming an inverse head and shoulder, which is expected to trigger price to the upside. Now, I also have a falling wedge pattern to support a bullish breakout. Now, again, if the data comes out as actual greater than forecast, that will lead to a bullish breakout on the Euro NZD. Now, the data may come out as a bad one for the Euro, which is actual less than forecast, and that may trigger a move to the downside. Now, if it comes out as less than, our advice don't sell, just wait, because over time, that means that price is trying to complete the second shoulder, and I still expect it to break out later on. So for this one, if it doesn't come out as expected, as actual greater than forecast, you might just need to wait and exercise patience so that I can enter manually later when price breaks out above the neckline region. But overall, I maintain a bullish outlook on the Euro NZD coupled with the GBP NZD. I said we're looking at three events from three countries: United Kingdom, United States, and the Eurozone. So I've showed you my view on the Eurozone and the United Kingdom. So back now to the dollar. Now, at the beginning of the week, this is the dollar index. Last week closed as a very sharp rejection candle, at a very strong support zone. Technically, we hold a bullish outlook on the dollar index for this week. We've seen some move already, but it can be more than that, provided the data from the United States comes out as an actual greater than forecast. Now, there are two events we're expecting from the United States. We're expecting the job opening and the unemployment claims. So if the actual comes out, if the data comes out good for the dollar, we're expecting a bullish movement whenever these two events are released, and that's 2:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. So I'll flip back now to the chart. So by 2:30 p.m., if the news comes out good for the United States dollar, you may look at buying. Let's check the USD CHF, because we're not trading the dollar index itself, it's an index. So we can look at trading the USD CHF. I'm not seeing good quality on the USD CHF. So let me check the USD card. All right, so this is the USD card. The USD card too is not showing much clarity. Okay. All right. Now this is 4 hour, and we are seeing a resistance on the USD card on 4 hour time frame. Let me go back to USD CHF and see. Or better still, let me check the Euro USD, which will trade the opposite. All right. So this is the Euro USD. It also closed with a rejection candle last week. So that similar structure of what we saw on the dollar index. Rejection candle at the resistance zone. So technically, we're expecting the downward movement. Now, if the USD, the dollar index is going bullish, and this one like Euro USD is expected to go bearish. All right, so this is Euro USD on 1 hour. On 4 hour, we're seeing a head and shoulder pattern. Head, shoulder, and price has broken out below the neckline. So we expect further bearish breakout. So as the dollar index is expected to go bullish, Euro USD is expected to go bearish. So the data comes out good for the US dollar, they were expecting a bearish movement on the Euro USD. So I'm bearish on the Euro USD, for the dollar related news. Though I'm bullish on the Euro NZD for the Euro news, but for the dollar, I'm bearish on the Euro USD for the dollar. But if that looks confusing to you, I would advise maybe you just stick with USD CHF. Anyhow the data comes, if it comes out good, just take a buy. As in, we'll not look at the structure. So we might as well say that we're bullish on the USD CHF for the dollar news. We're bullish on the euro for the euro news. And for the British pound, we're bullish on the British pound. We're bullish on the GBP NZD for the British pound news. All right, that will be all from me this afternoon. I think the data has been released from the United Kingdom. Let's check it out. Okay, we ended up having a conflicting data. I said we're bullish, but the data, one of it is negative. I mean, it's red rather. The other one is actually cut to forecast. So just ignore. It didn't come out with our in line with our expectations. So just ignore even the GBP NZD. Though the GBP NZD later on, it will go manually bullish. So for the news now, ignore the GBP NZD. This is it. I said it, I'm seeing an inverse head and shoulder information. Manually, I still expect it to reverse with time. So for now, just ignore because the expectation is different from what we analyzed. All right, that'll be all this afternoon. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Sorry, sir. There is a question I want to ask. The news yesterday, the dollar news yesterday came out conflict. I don't know, like that is the red and black. And by what you used to teach, you said that if it is red and the second one is neutral, that I should go by either the red or by the green. So I expected that since it was red, dollar would sell, but dollar continued buying.
Okay, I'm on the screen now. Are you talking about the ADP non-farm employment change? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
the second non-farm and the other one
that's ISM
PMI, yes.
Okay, they happened at two different times. Like the ADP non-farm was 2:15 p.m., while the ISM services is 4 p.m. So the reaction of the 2:15 p.m. may not span till 4 p.m. One, there are two different news events, and there's a time lapse between the two. Now, for the US ADP non-farm employment change, it came out bad for the US dollar. But personally, I've been bullish on the dollar all week. So even though the data came up, which direction did you say the market went when it's released?
It went bullish, but yeah, the news indicated red for the ADP non-farm, and then PMI was neutral.
So what happened is this: the overall sentiment was bigger than the effect of this news. It was bigger than that. That's why the market did not react to the sell with this news gave. But then I always say that it's better to focus on the sentiment. That's the overall direction, which was bullish. But I would not advise you to have traded this because the actual came out less than the forecast. Even though the overall sentiment is bullish and it was against it, you are not still supposed to have taken a buy. You were meant to have waited for the effect of the news to wear out before going in the bullish direction if you saw a technical setup pointing you in that direction. And for the one that is actually equal to forecast, I always advise to stay out of this. I always advise to stay out if it's actually equal to forecast.
So the problem was that they followed the earlier technical analysis, not actually the fundamental.
Okay, what was the technical analysis? Was it a bullish dollar?
It was bullish, yes.
Okay, and if you follow the technical, all I will advise in this case is just wait for the effect of the news to wear out and you can take the technical.
But sir, what if you were on a trade before then? Like that one of yesterday, I was on a trade.
Were you on a buy?
It's like I was on, I don't know whether it was on sell. I checked. It's like I was, the only thing is that it went the other direction. So I expected it to be selling, but it's continued buying. It's like I was on a sell.
And you were being wrong by being on the sell when the weekly analysis shows the buy for the dollar. Always stick with the overall outlook.
No, because except I just had that confusion. That's why I decided to ask. But maybe I'm not getting it right. What happened? Because actually, I was put off instead of going the sell direction. So it kept buying. So I was wondering because the news came bearish, and I expected it to sell, but it continued buying. So maybe I did not actually remember the technical. I was carried away by the news.
Let me explain something which we teach. Now, in fundamental, forex factory data is good, but it's not, we still need to filter it. That's why we always filter with the technical. So that the news showed you that actual less than forecast is not wrong. That's the data. But you see, it's not all news that is volatile enough that if you enter
Yes.
that cell, it will go well.
Mm.
So that's why we always combine with sentiment. If that news was NFP or CPI now, you see right there, yes, it will
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
But for some other news, they are not that strong. Maybe it's just over like 10 pips and it will reverse and the overall
Yes.
sentiment will take over. So that's why we always
Yeah.
filter with the technical. What is the technical bias, the technical sentiment for that instrument? And from the beginning of the week, I've been bullish on dollar because dollar closed last week as a very, very sharp rejection candle on a support. So for me this week, anything I'm doing on the dollar, that is my focus, including news. I'm looking at a bullish dollar. I'm trying to flip to dollar index. So even for the news, I've been looking for a bullish dollar. This is the weekly candle for last week.
Yes.
It closed on a
Okay.
support level with a rejection candle. So technically, anything you are doing on the dollar this week, you will only be wrong if you are
Bullish.
buying. I mean, you will only be right rather if you are buying the dollar. As in, if you are buying USD JPY, USD USD card, you are only going to do well if you are buying them. You understand? So it's if the news now aligns with that buy, that is when you take that news. So if the news came out as actual greater than forecast, it will align with this, and that will be a buy. But the news came out as against it, it will just sell slightly and market will
Yeah.
return back to that sentiment.
Exactly. That was what happened. It's okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless.
All right, that'll be all, everyone. Take care. Bye.